Scene script. Have you ever wondered about the mysteries that remain unsolved in our world? One such enigma is the disappearance of Malaysian Flight 370. In the annals of aviation history, few stories have gripped the public imagination as much as the enigma of Malaysian Flight 370. It's a tale that begins on an unassuming March day in 2014, when a Boeing 777 airliner carrying 239 souls mysteriously vanished without a trace. Despite the most extensive and most expensive search in aviation history, not a shred of definitive evidence has been found to explain what happened to this ill-fated flight. Then came Netflix, attempting to unravel the mystery with its own depiction of the incident. The streaming giant, known for its gripping docuseries, endeavored to shed light on the disappearance of Flight 370. But did it succeed in providing an accurate account, or did it merely add more layers to the already entangled web of theories and conjectures? As we delve into this topic, it's crucial to remember that we're not just dealing with a mystery, we're dealing with a real-life tragedy that affected hundreds of lives. Our intention isn't to sensationalize the incident, but to analyze the representation of this event by a global media powerhouse. Netflix, in its depiction, has woven a narrative that has undoubtedly captivated audiences worldwide. It's a narrative filled with suspense, intrigue, and heart-wrenching emotion. However, the question remains: how much of this narrative is rooted in fact, and how much is the product of creative license? In the coming segments, we will dissect and scrutinize the portrayal of Flight 370 by Netflix. We will explore the timeline of events, the ignored facts, the over-dramatization, and summarize the misrepresentations. Our aim is not to undermine the efforts of Netflix, but to foster a better understanding of the real story behind the disappearance of Malaysian Flight 370. So, let us dive deeper into the misrepresentations and inaccuracies in Netflix's portrayal of this baffling incident. The first point of contention is the timeline that Netflix presents in its depiction. The chronology of events as portrayed by Netflix seems to be a tad too simplified, perhaps for the sake of a more streamlined narrative. However, this oversimplification leads to a distortion of the actual sequence and timing of events related to the disheartening disappearance of Flight 370. Let's delve a little deeper into this. In Netflix's account, the flight deviated from its planned course almost immediately after the last communication with air traffic control. However, according to the official report by the Malaysian government, the change in course occurred nearly 20 minutes after the last verbal exchange. Additionally, Netflix's portrayal suggests that the military radar detected the off-course flight almost instantly. Again, this is a misrepresentation. The Malaysian military radar only picked up an unidentified object which was later confirmed to be Flight 370, a good hour after the flight had deviated from its path. Furthermore, there's a significant discrepancy regarding the timing of the response from the authorities. Netflix's version implies an almost instantaneous response following the disappearance from civilian radar. The truth, however, is far from it. The alarm was not raised until several hours later, due to a series of unfortunate miscommunications and procedural lapses. The last known satellite communication with the flight, a critical piece of evidence, is also inaccurately depicted. Netflix's timeline suggests this occurred shortly after the flight vanished from radar. In reality, this communication happened a staggering 7 hours later. It's important to note that these discrepancies are not minor. They significantly alter the understanding and interpretation of the events. These inaccuracies can lead to confusion and can even fuel unnecessary conspiracy theories. Thus, the timeline, a crucial aspect in understanding any incident, was not accurately represented by Netflix. Another major issue with Netflix's depiction lies in the facts that were conveniently ignored. Netflix's portrayal of the Malaysian Flight 370 incident is riddled with omissions and factual inaccuracies that substantially alter the narrative. One of the most glaring omissions involves the final communication between the air traffic control and the cockpit. In reality, the last words were, "Good night Malaysian 370, but Netflix chose to overlook this key detail. This omission is critical because it was this final communication that led investigators to believe something was amiss. Another fact that Netflix chose to ignore was the extensive search and rescue operation that took place in the immediate aftermath of the flight's disappearance. Over 30 countries contributed resources to one of the largest search efforts in aviation history. However, Netflix's portrayal made it seem as though the search was a half-hearted attempt, which is far from the truth. Then there's the issue of the Inmarsat data. Netflix's portrayal failed to mention how the British satellite telecommunications company Inmarsat played a pivotal role in narrowing down the possible flight path of MH370. The complex analysis of the handshakes between the aircraft and the satellite was a significant aspect of the investigation, but Netflix chose to gloss over it. Furthermore, Netflix's rendition neglected to mention the pilot's experience. Captain Zahari Ahmad Shah was an experienced pilot with over 18,000 hours of flight time under his belt. This omission is significant because it discredits the theory that the disappearance could have been due to pilot error. Lastly, Netflix did not adequately address the lack of physical evidence. Despite extensive search efforts, only a few pieces of debris confirmed to be from the flight have ever been found. This is a crucial detail as it underscores the mystery and tragedy surrounding the flight's disappearance. Ignoring such important facts can significantly distort the narrative and mislead the audience. By leaving out key details and facts, Netflix's portrayal of the Malaysian Flight 370 incident creates a skewed narrative that strays from the truth, ultimately doing a disservice to the viewers and those affected by the tragedy. The third issue at hand is the over-dramatization of events. Let's dive right into it. Netflix, like many other entertainment platforms, has a penchant for amplifying certain aspects of a story to make it more compelling. In the case of Malaysian Flight 370, this has led to a narrative that veers off from the actual course of events. Take, for instance, the portrayal of the flight's disappearance. Netflix would have us believe it vanished into thin air in an instant, leaving no trace. But the reality is far less dramatic. The plane didn't just disappear, it was a gradual process involving a loss of contact, followed by a series of failed attempts to re-establish communication. Netflix's over-dramatization extends to the investigation as well. The series presents the search for the plane as a high-stakes, nail-biting saga, akin to a thriller movie. While it's true that the search was extensive, the depiction of it as a race against time, fraught with tension at every turn, is an exaggeration. Then there's the depiction of the passengers and crew. Netflix paints them as characters in a suspenseful drama, complete with emotional backstories and dramatic farewells. In reality, these individuals were ordinary people caught up in an extraordinary situation. Their lives and experiences should not be exploited for dramatic effect. This over-dramatization doesn't just make for a more engaging watch, it shapes our perception of the incident. It turns a real-life tragedy into a spectacle, a source of entertainment. It blurs the line between fact and fiction, leading us to question the authenticity of the depiction. It's important to remember that behind the dramatized narrative are real people who experienced real loss. In the end, it's about striking a balance. Yes, dramatization can make a story more engaging, but we must be careful not to lose sight of the truth in the process. We owe it to the victims and their families to portray the incident with accuracy and respect. While dramatization can make a story more engaging, it should not come at the cost of authenticity. As we conclude, let's summarize the main points where Netflix went wrong in its depiction of the Malaysian Flight 370 incident. Firstly, we address the misleading timeline. Netflix's portrayal suggested a linear sequence of events, which, unfortunately, didn't match the real-life complexities of the investigation. The reality was a tangled web of leads, false alarms, and inconclusive evidence. In simplifying the timeline, Netflix may have made the narrative easier to follow, but it also strayed from the truth. Next, the ignored facts. There were numerous details, both minor and significant, that Netflix chose to omit from their narrative. These facts, though perhaps not as exciting or dramatic, were integral to the full understanding of the incident. The disappearance of Malaysian Flight 370 was a deeply complex event, and every detail mattered. By ignoring these facts, Netflix inadvertently distorted the reality of the event. Then, we come to the over-dramatization. Though drama can make a story more engaging, it can also skew the truth. Netflix's depiction of the Flight 370 incident was packed with heightened emotions, exaggerated conflicts, and dramatic cliffhangers. While these elements certainly made for an entertaining watch, they also contributed to a misrepresentation of the incident. The true story of Flight 370 is dramatic enough without the need for embellishment. The importance of accuracy in such sensitive and significant narratives cannot be overstated. When dealing with real-life events, especially those involving loss and tragedy, it is crucial that the narrative remains true to the facts. Misrepresentations not only distort our understanding of these events, but they can also cause unnecessary pain to those directly affected by them. While Netflix's depiction was certainly compelling, it is important to remember that the truth is often more complex than what is shown on screen.